It's a pleasure to be here. I want to thank you, the organization Exito, for giving me this opportunity. Quite excited. I have a huge passion for Africa and for the world. And I think Africa is one of the continents that is going to be leading the second wave of everything related with digital, especially because of its young population, but as well because of the strength and energetic capacities that it has, and how it can actually leverage and offer a lot of things to the world. So I want to start talking top level things, and I will try to highlight some of the areas that I think are key when it comes to digital transformation, not just for Africa, but for everyone in the world. But Africa has some opportunities because of the lead, because of less legacy systems, and because of as well a population that is quite vitalic and quite young and prepared to use all these different capacities that we are right now using when it comes to digital and so forth. So I will start with a small video that I did that highlights that at the moment as we speak, every business is a tech company. And I think we cannot forget this. I think it's probably one of the biggest challenges we are facing right now. I'll share my screen. So I think this video highlights most of the problems and the things we're facing right now when it comes to technology. And I think the challenge right now is how we look at these areas of digital transformation, especially in the context of everything related with the fourth industrial revolution that we are living right now, but as well with the COVID-19 pandemic. I think this is the most important challenge that any business in the world is facing. And I think is, in one end, a very challenging moment for, I think, everyone in this conference and every organization, but at the same time, a big opportunity if you look at this series. One of the things I've been finding in the last 1 year is that a lot of business around the world and a lot of industries, like we mentioned here, from retail to a lot of others, are right now facing massive challenges economically, in terms of cash flow, in terms of just moving forward. And the challenge is how can we look at this and take this opportunity as a way to build a solution that actually can strengthen our organizations and make us leapfrog and find ways of improving business and creating solutions. So I have a couple of slides, but in the end of the day, I want mostly to reflect these together with everyone here. So at the moment, as I mentioned here, we have a global tech scene that is right now touched by all the areas of the fourth industrial revolution, and in particular, digital and blockchain. Digital because everything we're doing right now is digital. Although we have a paradox, is that most of our digital tools are available for almost anyone in the planet. And I've been working a lot in Africa, from Mauritania to Nigeria, to Angola, to Mozambique, to Kenya. All these countries have access to phones, to WhatsApp, to all these tools. The challenge is that this infrastructure of most of these countries, and it's something around the world as well, is still mostly paper. We still have a huge challenge that most of the infrastructure that we have around us is still offline. And then, as I mentioned in the video as well, we have another challenge that a huge part of the 430 micro SMEs and SMEs in the world, a lot of these SMEs in particular in Africa, which are responsible for most of the economy, most of the jobs, are still offline. So we have in one end a big paradox. We have most of us using digital tools on a day-to-day, but our economy is still not digital. So how can we make bridges in these moments? How can we make bridges to understand how to use these technologies in a simple and effective way that can empower us and take us to the next level? So the challenge in terms of macro numbers is that there's still 1.7 billion unbanked adults. What I mean unbanked is people don't even have a bank account. 1 trillion of US millennials, for instance, that have 1 trillion of debt. 99% of the global wealth is held by 1%. 800 million Africans are excluded from the global economy. And 3 billion, and this is not just in Africa, earn under $2.5 a day. These numbers are very, very disturbing. And these are real numbers that show us the challenge we have. COVID-19 is accelerating, unfortunately, this division between wealth and poverty. And if you look at the last 2 years, in particular, but last year, especially with COVID-19 affecting every business in the world, we've been having a bigger challenge that is in the sense that that we have a big opportunity, but as well a big challenge that we have to understand how to leverage and how to understand the way to go, and especially how to take serious the digital part. And I want to repeat this because almost 100% of the success of any business listening to me today and talking here, success of this business is its capacity to use digital tools to strengthen his business, independent of the business sector they are, independent of anything. And I want to highlight this: 100% success rate is based on the capacity to use digital tools. So this brings us to the narratives, to the stories that we use. So everyone has a story. Africa has the tribes, and it has a wonderful story of society, a story of working together to achieve things. But the challenge right now is, how can we look at these stories? How can we look at these narratives to find a narrative that includes us in writing the human machine code narrative? And I think this is particularly important because, as I mentioned in the video, a huge part of the world economy right now is held by around 20 big corporations that have more money than most of the countries in the world and have more data and more digital capacity. This doesn't mean that they're doing anything wrong. They're simply doing it right, and the governments are not coping with that. And most of the world economy is not coping with that pace of change. So if you look at the history of humanity, we've been having four areas of industrial revolution that started mostly in the 19th century. But if you look at societies or different kind of societies, we had the first society that was a hunting society. We went through the agrarian society. We went to an industry society in the 19th, 18th century. And we went to the 20th century with society 4.0. And right now we are in the society 5.0. There was a concept developed partly by the Japanese government that talks about the opportunities that we can use blockchain technologies in the sense of creating mostly certification for our economies. Blockchain is not more than a solution to put our economy that is still paper, the certificates of our land, the certificates of our marriages, the certificates of our companies, to put it in ledgers that are immutable and that are using technology to improve our society. The challenge is that part of the last three big revolutions that we've been having are still working in parallel in different velocities in our society. So that means the companies that are full digital cycle transformation and that can use these disruptive technologies and frontier technologies that are part of the fourth industrial revolution can accelerate the path of challenge and the path of innovation. This is not a simple task, but is actually not so complicated as it looks. And most of this is about finding ways to use the tools that everyone is using it to empower our communities, our tribes, our organizations. And if you look at all these different technologies, there are a lot, and all of us are using this every day, everyone. For instance, I have an experience in Mauritania where I went with some fishermen and they were using WhatsApp to make all their transactions and all their sales. So they were still in the sea and they were passing information to the fish market, telling, okay, I manage this fish, can you sell this? So this is in one of the most remote parts of Africa. So the challenge is, can we take this as well to the governments and replace paper, replace a lot of red tape with systems that are easy and leapfrog a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of things that are not working. And this is going to be increasing as we get into more accelerated right now, the bridge between the traditional economy and the decentralized economy. So this is becoming really a big challenge. And the challenge is that most of the businesses are not understanding how fast this goes. I'll just give an example. And I'm not going to go into details, but for instance, last week, Bitcoin reached $1 trillion valuation. $1 trillion. The world economy is $80 trillion. Bitcoin is decentralized. Most of the economy is centralized. For instance, the price of Bitcoin reached $56,000. But for instance, Nigeria blocked the use of Bitcoin. And what happened is that Nigeria is the second biggest user of Bitcoin in the world. And the price of Bitcoin in the black market went to $76,000. So at the moment, we have all these technologies that are mainstream in parallel, but then we have financial new challenges that are working in parallel. And this is the biggest challenge we're facing, is that the two things have to work together. Otherwise, we create a very paradoxical society that gets out of focus and gets very easily in a much more kind of divisive structure. And these technologies that are all here, most of them at least, are changing everything we do, but we can use it for a lot of things, for good and for bad. Technologies are neutral, is what we do with it. So I urge every company here, every organization to look at this, not in a way of trends, not in a way of hype, but in a way of using this to improve processes. Use this to look at 360 degrees process of trigger and increase widespread digitization of the economy. And this is really important. The novel use of digital economy has to be used to solve traditional problems, not to create problems, more problems that we are facing right now, especially with a lot of things related with digital currencies and as well a lot of decentralized technology working parallel with traditional systems. And most of these technology are going so fast, not because of speculation or scams, but because they're trying to solve problems. And it's easy for someone that is 20 something years old just to get a cryptocurrency and start paying someone around the world than actually to use the systems that are broken and they don't work. So I urge everyone listening to us to look at this as a way of finding radical change economical models that can increase the process and the organization productivity and use these for interconnection of processes and improve governance and improve solutions. Very important thing, and I'll repeat, most of the population in Africa is 20 something years old. All these people are digital natives. At the moment, there's opportunities to create major digital social networks for Africa, major digital banks serving this young population, major digital marketplaces to create work like Fiverr's. Whereas I've been working with Fiverr for the last almost 10 years. Fiverr became one of the biggest communities, marketplaces to hire people all over the world. Most of the people there are actually Africans, Bangladesh, emerging economies. And these people are being paid mostly through PayPal and sometimes for cryptocurrencies. They have parallel economies within the economies. We need to find a way of bridge these economies, and we need to find a way of educate all the organizations and camp together. So I think these numbers as well are very powerful and very disruptive as well. And I'm passing my time. So less than 2/3 of the small businesses have a website. The micro businesses, those that employ fewer than 10 employees, make up to 73% of the private sector employees and employ 10% of all the employees. 96% of the small businesses say that social media is key for their marketing strategy. 90% of the online experience starts with the search engine and with social media. Africa is leading a lot of the digital trends and is right now becoming a new place to test a lot of these digital changes. For instance, Square and the founder of Square, Jack Dorsey, that created PayPal, that created Twitter, is right now moving a lot of operations to Africa. So a lot of these things is how can we actually use this digital innovation to increase these solutions? And I think very important thing is explain why digital transformation matters. How to create frameworks and roadmaps that can actually change the culture, change management, and find ways to create short, medium, long-term digital transformation. And I think this is the critical element of using data to face and solve the problems of day to day, especially when it comes to create work solutions, to create regulatory part. We cannot, for instance, not look at digital transformation, and the countries that don't use digital transformation will be colonies of other countries. We don't want that to happen. And actually, in some cases, colonies of actually corporations. Look, for instance, what happened with Facebook and Australia. So we have a lot of challenges, but we have a lot of opportunities. It's the way you're going to be using this that is critical. And I want to use this slide probably as a follow-up last point of my presentation. At the moment, if you look at the global supply chain, and a huge part of the supply chain, especially when it comes to commodities that start mostly in Africa. It starts with the supply chain. It starts then with the product and the process of gardening the products out of the supply chain, the design IP, and finally the consumer. So if we use blockchain technologies to create certificates and proof of provenance, we can cut corruption, we can create transparency, and it can actually improve the business. Because if I want to buy a business or I want to buy a product coming from Africa, I know where it came from, and this creates a lot of things. Another example is something I'm working right now in Ghana, an association with thousands of farmers. If you put these thousands of farmers in a digital marketplace, we can actually have this track between their products and connect them worldwide with institutions like MasterCard that are working in solutions, for instance, for supply chain, international payments. And this is where we need to leverage this local global bridge with digital tools that can empower us and actually can create a stronger supply solutions and as well create ethical businesses. And I think this is the most important challenge we have in our lifetime, especially as the fourth industrial revolution starts becoming bigger. We're going to have the challenge of artificial intelligence being able to automate most of the world economy. So that means we have to look how to look at the automation as a way to empower our societies, our cities, and create a global digital tribe that can use the tools to empower and include our societies, not the other way. And this is critical, and it's the only way our business can survive. There's no other way. Any government that is not looking at digital transformation 360 will become a non-government because the citizens will work in the parallel economy. And what I'm saying about Nigeria is very important. The government of Nigeria, and I'm not talking against the government, I'm just saying that instead of blocking crypto, try to understand, create sandboxes like, for instance, what Singapore is doing. And this sandbox, and even, for instance, the Chinese government create an entire blockchain solution for the country. It's the Blockchain Alliance that all the cities have a digital transformation system to certificate all their business, all their ecosystem. And this is the most important thing we have to focus right now. And of course, there's all the challenges, and I'm finishing right now, or that come with the fourth industrial revolution. There's the automation, the issues of cybersecurity, the ethical issues of using data, the psychological, because you see, you can manipulate people using social media, the fake news, the bias, the privacy, and even the biomanipulation when it comes to healthcare and bioengineering, which is already happening as we speak. So I want to highlight these things and as well explain how this can actually be used for good. I'll share this presentation, but I believe that if you look at the complexity of our societies and cities, we can actually look at the moment from April 2020, when the peak of COVID-19 until April 2021, we can actually look at the risks and find growth strategy metrics in terms of rewarding data and meritocratic systems, digitizing our models, and create robust models of social impact data ownership for our cities and citizens. And very important to think, look at the economical and financial recession, the low investment of financial, the social unrest and political tensions as a way of empower and understanding and adaptability and change management with growth ways. So this is where we need to look at a matrix to solve the problems and a matrix to look at how to create a global ecosystem marketplace that can empower our cities and our citizens. And all the companies here have a responsibility and an urgency to look at this and find ways. And I think Africa, for me, I'm working with Nigeria, Ghana, and different countries. I believe it's one of is the continent for the 21st century. It is the continent as well that can teach us a lot of new areas, especially when it comes to the Ubuntu sense of thrive that we need in the world economy. So we need to create social networks and marketplaces digital. Most of the economy right now is running marketplaces that actually can create solutions to empower our citizens and our tribes. And this is where we're not using these tools in the intelligent way that we should. Instead of just leaving Silicon Valley and some Chinese and Asian companies to take over the world economy, we need to use these tools and use it on the day to day. Most of these tools are for free, are open source. We can just use it. And I think this is where I urge everyone to use these tools, and actually, especially the companies and SMEs that are present in this event and the thought leaders that are leading some of these challenges and opportunities. And I think very important thing to finish, utopia and dystopia depends on the narrative we build with our actions, especially around our core values and interaction with each others, and increasingly with our machines, with our communities and tribes. And to finish, I love this African proverb, cross the river in a crowd and the crocodile won't eat you. We are all part of this. We are all part of this tribe. Thank you so much.